And we're live. Bob, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here with you, Kevin.
I appreciated our pre interview chat here. I guess I swore to secrecy, or I promised I wouldn't go there when it comes to sports teams and jersey colors and stuff like that. So we'll leave that aside.
There you
Uh,
go. Thank you.
but
Thank you.
no, absolutely. But no, but I really
I owe you.
really appreciate you jumping on and looking forward to this conversation very much.
Likewise.
So cool. So let's we were kind of talking about you know, uh, you I wouldn't say bounced around, but you started out on the East Coast, right? And then made it down to the Carolinas, and now down in wonderful Texas. But I guess take us through early days, and maybe what was the spark behind getting into technology?
Yeah. Born and raised in Pennsylvania, went to undergrad down in North Carolina, a little school called Davidson College, where known now for Steph Curry.
Hmm.
And then, my dad was a small town physician, and I always thought, I'm going to be like dad, and dad would do house calls. And I don't think there's a more noble profession out there than, doctors. I'm got siblings that are in that field. I didn't have the science prowess, so I quickly decided that wasn't for me. But when I came out of Davidson, really got enthralled with technology and networking. And one of my earliest jobs actually was kind of a network engineer, where I was installing Ethernet cards, I was laying cable, and the early days. I'm not claiming that the Al Gore I invented the internet, not close to it, but even the early days of networking and using the same printer and being able to share information, email, and then accessing corporate or the organization's resources remotely. I bought in hook, line, and sinker, and then just that led me to I joined a leadership development program at a major networking firm out of business school. I did my grad work over in Raleigh, and
Yeah.
then that actually brought us out to Texas. And I was with a major telecom firm for a few years, and then I got into cyber, and I've been in cybersecurity now over 23 years. And the tie back, Kevin, you were asking about kind of finding my way. I do believe what we do here at Sonicwall truly is helping others, helping businesses, helping safeguard brands, helping make the world a better place. So yeah, there's a thumb sketch.
Yeah, so you mentioned you kind of been in the cybersecurity space for roughly I guess 23-ish years, something like that. That first kind of I guess foray into cybersecurity or security in general, was that within Trust?
It
Was
was
that the first
correct.
group? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and talk about jumping in up to your eyeballs. Public
Mm,
key infrastructure, learning PKI, learning digital certificates. Not easy, but it definitely pushed me. And one of the early trends was security. Early PKI wasn't the easiest to use, and
mm,
when you have to click on a file to secure it, really not a winning scenario. So it became very clear that cybersecurity and even security back in those days was only as good as the ease of use around it. And the more
mm.
transparent the security, the more broadly it would be used. So that was a key lesson in the early days. But yeah, moved from there into identity and authentication, secure comms, and now with Sonicwall network security.
Yeah. So within Trust, being there for I guess it was roughly 14 years, starting out, and I guess maybe that's the definition of climbing the corporate ladder or what have you. But you're there. I mean, even in the 90s, 2000s, the teens, that type of longevity is rare, right? Even at that point, people maybe 2 years, 3 years, 6 years on the high end, but 14 years, and you saw pretty significant product evolution and maturing particularly in PKI and just general security and or security in general. But I guess what was you know that's rare, right? To be with an organization that long. I mean,
Right.
you know what gives?
Well, so a couple of things. I actually during that time I moved from more of a services marketing type of role into the field, and
Mhm.
just loved when someone always said, okay, if you're gonna spend your time in marketing, you really need to carry a bag and
Mm.
be out on the front lines with customers, with partners, and that will make you a better marketeer. So I had an opportunity to do a role in sales, and I loved it. And the really I was like, "Oh, okay, I don't want to go back." So I was fortunate enough to have that career transition. At the same time, we were moving from on-prem to the cloud, and
Mm.
and what we did then, that many companies to this day are still doing. You took an on-prem solution, put it in the cloud, and said, okay, now we've got a hosted solution. Well, that didn't quite work. So we went through the whole, you know, service reliability and robustness and designing something, for the cloud back then. We went from 100% perpetual to 100% recurring revenue. Well, I shouldn't say 100%, but it was darn close, maybe 95.5.
Mm.
And that was also during the uptick in online banking. So we moved to an authentication platform. We moved to leveraging SAML across the board, and from so many angles. And trust was such an incredible place to be, where I learned not only from a functional standpoint, more and more sales wise. I had an opportunity to support leading financial institutions, many of our large federal government customers, and in addition to the key trends at the time. So, and trust was incredible for my career.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, especially at the time, right? That's kind of the early evolution of kind of maybe fundamental security, and you're going up against the likes of the RSAs and the
Yeah,
Gemaltos,
right
and
on.
yeah, and
Right on.
but yeah, for you to kind of take that step down and you know you get in front of the customer, right? 'Cause that's often that is probably one of the hardest things outside of like solving the security challenge, but the hardest thing is taking something that complex and boiling it down to something that a customer can understand, and then trying to translate that, out to the field to give to the salespeople for them to go out there and be the evangelist. And so I mean, I just really appreciate kind of that story, that message, and that going out, carrying a bag and understanding, from the customer's point of view, what they're looking for. I imagine that was pretty invaluable in kind of shaping marketing messaging, moving forward, or at least in your mind, right?
Oh, it was huge. And honestly, the biggest takeaway I loved in sales, I loved hearing firsthand from the customers and partners, because there's no filtering relative to this is what was going on, or you read about market trends. When you are sitting down with the CISO of a top five financial institution, you're hearing it firsthand, what their pain points are, what their needs, where they're taking their business, and that was invaluable. The other point, and it's something I've implemented over the course of the rest of my career, something I implemented as CEO here at Sonicwall over the past year, but it really opened my eyes to taking an outside in approach.
Mm.
It starts with the customer, it starts with the partner. If you understand what's keeping them up at night, you understand where their business is going, you have such an advantage. But it's not just hearing it as a salesperson, it's also about relating that back to PM, engineering, support, finance, right?
Yeah.
And that I think is invaluable. The other one internally was just, I early on I thought, okay, I can do this all myself. I'm only as good as if I can close this deal, and I can do X, Y, or Z. It really became apparent to me that you're only as good as your extended team. And you know I was by far not the sharpest pencil in the box in the room, and I had to have support behind me, beside me. I had to have product management listening as well to the customer and facilitating those sessions, because they should be shaping the roadmap. Over the years, I've had incredible engineering teams around me, but there's also the tendency then to say, hey, I know what the customer wants, I know what the partner wants, and no one can answer that except for the customer or the partner, and that was an invaluable lesson too.
I can imagine. I think there's probably two very important lessons for anybody in a leadership role, or certainly the CEO. And I think I was definitely guilty of this at times early on, where you'd go out to a sales meeting and you try to be open, good, bad, or indifferent to the feedback. I mean, sometimes being on the front line, it could be hairy, especially if you're dealing with top 5 financial firms. I think some of the feedback is pretty poignant, and so the ability to listen and bring that back to a team is invaluable. And I think second, to your point, is at times realizing you're not the smartest person in the room and need to surround yourself. And I think for anybody in leadership, that's kind of a fundamental, because I was certainly guilty of that early on, and maybe at times I still am. But realize that it's all about the team that you build around you, and that's where you build a right team, then you can go just about anywhere.
Yeah, spot on. Couldn't have
Yeah,
said it any
yeah,
better. Exactly right.
excellent. So moving on from Entrust, you were there quite a bit of time. Then you spent some time at Silent Circle.
Yeah.
Did I have is that right? The kind of right progression?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay,
Spent
cool.
3 years at Silent Circle.
Yeah.
Um,
And I guess what was the impetus behind that change, or move in that direction?
yeah, I always wanted to try my hand at a startup, and Silent Circle was along those lines. Kind of a bit modified on the risk, but still a startup. And the focus there was secure comms.
Mhm.
Uh, Coming out with a secure Android device, called a Black Phone. Actually, the Black Phone was out, and then Black Phone 2. But then the other part of the offering was an app that you could download to your iPhone or to an Android, to do secure comms, and
Mm.
not only voice, but also texting, and totally secure. In fact, you could, if I texted something to Kevin and I was like, I just texted something that's a little too, or not degrees of confidentiality, but I don't want that text to last. I could actually burn that text, and it would
Mm.
erase on my end as well as yours. So, um, that was actually, to me, the more intriguing part of Silent Circle. Um, and we leaned in a little, harder on the device side, than the app side, which to me, the app really provided greater potential. But did that for 3 years. I learned a lot. Worked with a number of amazing individuals. A lot of our some of the core founders were ex-Navy SEALs, and
Mm.
incredible respect for anyone who's served in our military. But it was an incredible experience. But that after that, I chose to then make a move over to network security and Sonicwall.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so let's get into Sonicwall, because kind of this is why I was pressing you a little bit early on about the years at Intrust, and I think really appreciative of the matriculation, and kind of seeing an organization from multiple angles. But at Sonicwall, you've been in multiple roles. I had to write them down because it's impressive. But starting out the SVP of strategic, and then CMO role, and then SVP and CRO. And so, it's again an example of seeing an organization, not just from one, through one lens, but multiple angles, right? From revenue generation to marketing, looking at strategic. And so, I guess let's kind of get into what was attractive about Sonicwall early on, and take us through that journey of kind of being in all these different roles at Sonicwall.
Yeah, so let me start with why Sonicwall. I was familiar with Sonicwall, and then at the time, the CEO, for whom I had worked at Entrust, also, said, "Hey, could really use your assistance over here." Sonicwall being a leader, I'd known a number of folks that had worked for Sonicwall, a leader in the network security space, incredible IP, great history at the time, 25 years in existence. And I was actually asked to come over as CMO. And I told you earlier that, I quickly found that sales was my area, and I just love sales. And, there were a number of back and forths at the time that I was like, that's not where I do my best work in marketing. But at the time, the need was really, and even now, I would argue in any organization, sales and marketing has to work hand in glove.
Yeah.
Um, and when they do, tremendous synergy. Not like all the other functions also have to work together, but sales and marketing. So I really focused when I started as CMO. I really focused on working closely with, at the time, the chief revenue officer, and we put a number of programs together all around supporting our partners, all around go to market, and many of those were record setting programs. Again, credit to the team, but really, gave me a chance to learn. Not only, I mean, Sonicwall is 100% partners, and this
Mhm.
was a first for me, working for an organization that was all partner. Coming out of Dell in 2017, the drive was, again, we're going to get back to our roots. Partners are in our DNA. So that was a great opportunity. I was in that role for a little over a year, and then was asked to step into, to your point, take over our key strategic accounts, our Fed business, and then that led to being asked to be chief revenue officer.
So in that, I mean, we'll get to kind of managing at scale, but um, there's obviously a ton of complexity, and how do you gain alignment, right? Because to your point, right? It's often in one of the big what do you call it? Not mysteries, but it's one of those. It's always an area of contention. It's like it's age old, right? Sales and marketing, right? It's like we gave you the leads, but the leads are that whole dynamic. But how do you create that kind of dynamic or change, and get that alignment?
Well, I think, one, there has to be collaboration and mutual respect. Um,
Mhm.
it's not as though sales has the upper hand or marketing has the upper hand, but it's stow the ego and willing to sit down and work our way through. Hey, we've got some aggressive goals relative to what sales has to drive, and it's really the company. It's not just sales. So how are we going to work together to get there? At the time, we hadn't refreshed. About 90% of our top line comes from firewalls. And we hadn't refreshed our firewall line in quite a ways, or quite some time. And, top line was starting to go down, units were decreasing. So we had to change things up. And, working that together, putting upgrade programs in place, thinking through how do we engage our partners. One big piece is, just on the partner side, you know, end customer marketing is very, very different than partner marketing. And,
Mhm.
we took the entire, at the time, I oversaw marketing, product management field, took the entire organization through, a channel program, channel education, and understanding our partners' businesses, how they make money, how they are offering their services to end customers. You got to understand that model, and you understand how they're working and how they're making a living, to truly understand how we're going to support and align with them. That was fundamental and eye-opening to me. And when I came in as CRO, we really leaned, and in the last year, we're really leaning even more so into our partners.
Yeah. So now you've been CEO for just over a year, maybe a
Correct.
year and a couple of months, something like that.
Correct.
What's been the most interesting you know element or experience managing at this scale, right? Roughly what, 1600 ish employees. I mean, that's a very sizable organization. I mean, what's been most interesting about that?
Yeah, I'd have to tell you the first few months weren't my favorites. I kind of hit me out of the blue. This was being CEO certainly wasn't something on my bucket list, and I had to give it a lot of thought. Um, Over the course of even 7 years, Sonicwall has such an incredible history, and we've been a leader in so many different areas, technology and SMB and security efficacy and TCO, that I sat down with our owners and said, "Hey, this is what I'd like to do. Um, if you're willing to, you know, allow me to put a team in place that wants to and it agrees to put Sonicwall back in the leadership position and invest, I'll give you everything I got." And they said, "Yeah, we want you to do that. This isn't just make things look good for a quarter or however long. We want you to really restructure and build a new culture and put Sonicwall back and where Sonicwall has such a great legacy." So and as I said, the first couple of months were tough. I spent literally next to no time with sales and marketing, and spent all my time with engineering, product management, product marketing, and support. And had some tough conversations, had some tough meetings. I quickly, as I learned earlier in my career, I surround my self with team members that better, smarter, faster, strong integrity, shared the same view around, hey, we need to put Sonicwall back in a leadership position. And I would tell you that over the course of the last 6 months, it has been an incredibly rewarding experience. And we have a new head of engineering, we have a new head of PM, new head of support, new global channel prime. We've really leaned into DE and I. We've leaned into implementing a corporate culture. Underpinning everything, we're really focusing on driving growth and innovation, but doing that via our partners. And I couldn't be more proud of the team. We've got a long way to go, but just the unsolicited. We had a leadership meeting last week. Top 60 leaders got together, and all around ensuring that we're aligned and focused on common goals and objectives. And I landed on Friday, came home, and I had an unsolicited email from one of our key partners that said, Bob, I'm a big believer in sharing when good things when you see them, especially the leadership. But your team is just amazing. How they're listening, they're executing, they're sitting down, they really care about where we're heading and structuring the roadmap to align with that. So again, long-winded answer, I know. Sorry for that, but I couldn't be more proud of the team and where we're heading. It's exciting, and the energy is just amazing.
It's got to be rewarding, and I appreciate the thorough answer, because you've taken, there's not a, I would assume there's not a technician or an MSP or somebody that's in and around the channel that doesn't know Sonicwall. So I mean, it's such an established, and I'd argue iconic in the channel, brand. And it's got to be very challenging, right? Taking something that's it's been around for a while, very established, even though you've been involved internally, but when you're taking the helm, you're looking at it from a different perspective, right? And you're trying to obviously look at today and what's going well, what's not going well, but then you're looking out 2, 3, 4, 5 years and where we're going, and that's got to be challenging within such an established brand, and to get that kind of feedback in such short order is probably pretty darn rewarding. Now I know it's not, it's early in if I know you're not counting your wins early on, but right, but it's got to feel good that you're moving in the right direction. And I think it's you can see that externally. whether it's out at an event or just some of the press you guys have been putting out the last couple of months. It seems like it's really there's one, it's a double down commitment on just the channel and partner first. We'll kind of get into some of that stuff, but
Right.
it's kind of evolution of how you speak about the organization. So there's that partner first strategy, and then you've kind of got this borderless security concept. So maybe can maybe touch on kind of some of the positioning and where you're thinking this is going moving forward.
Well, you actually said it better than I did, Kevin. It really starts with our partners, and we just announced our new Secure First overhaul. So Secure First is our partner program. We're overhauling that to provide greater discounts, more favorability, allowing partners to take advantage, more flexibility of what role, depending upon how much they want to do with Sonicwall, rewarding them, enabling them. Really credit to our new channel chief, Michelle Ragusa McBain. I mean, she has just been a breath of fresh air. Jason Carter, our CRO, the two of them started this, well before the rest of us, kind of lined up and put more wood behind that arrow. But it really is looking at how can we grow our MSSP or our service provider business. It's more than just about listening and whether it be a roadmap or support, for example. It's how we charge, how we're going to structure enabling MSPs, how we're going to layer in new services so that again their businesses can grow, they can differentiate their offerings, they can ensure that the security that they're providing to their customer base is top notch. And that's what's exciting about this. And I'm not taking anything for granted or declaring victory. It's we're on a journey that really doesn't have the final destination. We have to be diligent and continue to focus on what can we do better. We're tripling the number of partners that have now access to our tier 2 and 3 support, immediate access. So you don't have to talk to Bob. You can immediately go to Kevin, the expert. That's important. When things are going to happen, issues will, pop up, and our partners and customers need to have immediate access. So those are little things, though, that we're folding in that we truly do believe will make a big difference. And again, while also adding new capabilities that our partners can then better position and their offering with their customers and grow their businesses. Some of the best feedback I've received, it's not about when I was CRO, Sonicwall growing double digits, and I'm proud of that. But what was great was talking to the partners that were saying, we're having a record year, or we're having a record year on top of last year's record year. That is music to my ears. If our partners do well and we're enabling them and we're providing differentiated services and offerings there, hey, Sonicwall is going to do just fine.
Well, if there's any question about you being a partner first organization, bringing Michelle on to lead the charge is that's a damn good move by the CEO there.
Well,
And
credit to Jason Carter, our CRO. Credit where credit's due. But I mean, she has just been amazing, and those two have just been incredible. But we just we're about to announce a new CMO. About I'd say 80 to 90% of the leadership team is new to the role or new to Sonicwall. And that what's cool, it's not about any individual. It's all about our culture of integrity and caring, commitment, collaboration, innovation, and everyone is bought into that. It's not about okay, Bob's positioning Bob for the next role. That's been a bigger kind of one of the biggest priorities and pieces that I've looked for in the team versus experience. And we have an amazing leadership team around me.
yeah, it sounds like you're building really truly an ecosystem, internally and externally, and that's just like that goes back to that sales and marketing. If you have that, the right ecosystem internally, that can support that ecosystem externally, then that's the hallmark of a lot of the organizations that truly scale, because there's some phenomenal technologies out there, some phenomenal organizations,
Right on.
but and they might be product led and you might be innovative and all that stuff, but if you can't adequately support the partners that are supporting you, and show that investment and taking out the friction, bi-directional friction, working with the partners, then it's and unfortunately we see that time and time again, in channel. That's again, see so many great technologies come out and they don't master that formula. When you get that formula down, you're unstoppable, and it seems like you guys are well on the way to becoming even more of a I don't know a titan of the industry.
Well, we got a ways to go, but we're committed and we're leaning hard in that direction. And again, listening more, talking less, and really staying close to our partner community.
That's great. So I guess kind of last question. Kind of touched on it, and I know you've been kind of immersed in structure and planting the seeds to move forward. But so what does Sonicwall look like? 2 years from now, 3 years from now.
I I have to be careful not to jinx myself. I think we're going to look very different in 3 months
Mm,
from now, much less 2 or 3 years from now, Kevin.
yeah.
We're leaning. The partner revamp is just one data point. We will be expanding our offerings, more service oriented. We'll be adding capabilities that again I think our partners can then include in their offering to their customers. We're changing up the way that we're supporting our customers, as I mentioned earlier. We're putting significant resources around supporting our partners day in, day out, right? Just flat out headcount and resources on Jason's team. But even broader than that, our PM team is spending a considerable amount of time just out listening, asking questions as they formulate and update now our strategy and product roadmap. So we will continue along those lines. Again, you'll see some significant changes coming out of Sonicwall, all underpinned around the offerings, how we service, how we charge, more monthly billing, less all up front, and more cloud focused, and less of the legacy. Again, that innovation is so key. Can't sit
Mhm,
still. As you know, cyber attacks change overnight.
mhm.
And in cybersecurity, you have to change not only your offering but also how you're going to market and driving the various support functions. So that really needs to be the constant, and keeping an ear to the market, to our partners, is fundamental as we continue to make those pivots.
That's excellent. And I for one am looking forward to watching this evolution. So I'll keep my eyes and ears out as you guys progress here over the next couple of months, and really looking forward to some big things from you guys. So, Bob, I'm going to be respectful of your time, and I really appreciate you jumping on, and we'll certainly have links to Sonic Wall in the show notes, and we'll encourage everybody to go check you out, and go from there. So
Well,
so
thanks for the
yeah,
opportunity, Kevin. Very cool, and you all have been huge supporters, and we really appreciate it. So look forward to continuing our dialogue. That's for sure.
sounds good. Thanks, Bob.
All the best.